on the Cape Cod, and so I don't remember whether I bought a truck or whether I had an old truck. Then I put a cab on the back of that pickup truck, and it had a shower and a bed, and I had a dog. I've always had a dog, a Doberman Pinscher. So there was a book out in those years called Travel with Charlie.
I remember that. John
So
Steinbeck.
I
Yes.
did Travels with Charlie. Only my dog, I don't remember his name, but a regal, marvelous male Doberman sat beside me, and I drove across country and put together a play and and did summer stock. And part of that summer stock goes on to Long Island and the Hamptons.
Wait, just to be clear, you were homeless at this point.
No, I had a
your home
home
was on
in the
wheels.
back of a truck.
Yeah, your home was on wheels.
Like if a guy
yes.
sleeps in his car, is he homeless or has he got a
Yeah.
Chevy? I live. I have my address is Chevy
on Interstate 10, not exit 20.
Truck. I got the Chevy truck. I think I had a Chevy. So are you?
And that's back when cars. That's back when cars were big enough. You could sleep flat out
Right.
on
Right.
the bench seating.
Exactly.
Right.
So the philosophical question is: are you homeless if you're in something you own in your car? You're not sleeping on the streets. So I had a little tiny house here, which I didn't pay for. So I slept in the back of this truck in this cab.
And you said you ended up from Cape Cod into the Hamptons. Is that right?
I'm in
Where you
Cape
left off?
Cod, and I park in a pasture, and I'm living there, and I go and I drive over to the theater a mile or so away, perform at night, and then that night I drive to the pasture and park and sleep in the cab. So it was this evening that I was sitting in a chair in the cab, or lying down in the chair, and I'm looking through the window at the moon, and I've got a little black and white TV set, and I'm tuned into Armstrong on the Moon. And I had been at the Cape the year before and had some wonderful exchanges. I lay down in the lem. I looked around. The astronauts took me around. They gave me a ship of a model of the Enterprise, and I signed it. I'll see you on the moon. And I was like a junior astronaut, and everyone said, "Oh, thank you very much," and they laughed, and then I left. And a year later, I'm looking at Armstrong putting his foot on the moon, and we had discovered, or either then or a little bit later, that as our ratings in Star Trek went up, the government voted more money for NASA. That became more popular. Star Trek popularized space travel. And so so I felt in some tiny, minuscule way, I had a little something to do with that. And there he puts, and the world is watching, and I'm lying bereft, moneyless, homeless in my Chevy, looking at him go on the moon. And the irony of that incredible moment and my destitution struck me even then. And upon retelling, I'm able to make it even more dramatic.
Well, your hand gestures helped on that one.
Right.
So Bill, here's my analysis. I think what happens is once we're going to the moon, we don't need you, right? Because all of a sudden space exploration is real.
Right.
It's no longer pretend. And
Right.
then 3 years later, only 3 years, 1969, boots on the moon, 1972, no longer boots on the moon. We stop going into space. And here's my analysis. I think we all say to ourselves, wait a minute, that's not, wait a minute. This is supposed to keep going. And it didn't. It didn't. Even the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, 1968, that was imagining 2001. Wait a minute, this all stopped. Well, what do we have left? We got to go back to Star Trek. Star Trek was that hope. And so your popularity grew in reruns,
Yeah,
bigger than it ever was during the show.
much bigger. Star Trek took off in reruns.
And in reruns and into the
6 or 7 years
70s.
later.
Right after we stopped going to the moon. So
Yeah.
you, dude, became our only hope at that point.
I know. You were betting the wrong horse. You had your money on the wrong guy.
So I think that the fact that we became more distant from space made Star Trek that much more important and relevant to us. That's my. What do you think of that?
Well, I think
analysis?
it's beautiful, and I heartily agree with you that I alone brought the NASA redid itself because of me. No. What happened is the expense of going to the moon. Kennedy saying we shall go. We're going to go to the moon in a decade, and American pride made us do it. Once we had done it, it was like, oh God, we're not going to spend any more money on that. We got the politicians' pockets to line, and all the money is gone. So they because of the expense. And I don't know what happened, but it was like the air went out of American determination in space. We lost it for a while. Um, you know, um, I don't know whether this is apocryphal or not, but my understanding is Yuri Gagarin, and for your audience to remind them, he was the Russian astronaut who made the first launch into space, came down like a stone in a parachute, but he was up there for a brief moment, and apparently he said, "It's blue," and then parachuted down. Now, we see the sky as blue and we say, "Oh, that's blue," but knowledgeable people know that's refraction of the sun. The air is colorless, but whatever it is, the water, the moisture in the air gives us the blue color, and so we think, okay, well, but it's colorless, just blue because of the refraction of the sun. He gets above it, and he says, "It's blue." And I thought, when I heard that story, I thought, what a glorious moment when the first human being looks down upon our planet and says, "It's blue." And what a color. I mean, blue is a beautiful color. It's so engaging. It's so calming. I mean, you paint a room blue because you want the color to be restful.
Air
So
Force
he
One
says,
is painted blue, in part for that
yeah.
reason. It's a very calming color.
I have gone across this continent many times, uncountable times, in every manner possible. When I was a kid, I thumbed across the United States. I left Montreal, got to San Diego, went to Vancouver, got to Chicago, back to Montreal on my thumb. I've motorcycled across the continent. I've driven a truck. I've in a sports car. I've been with a family. I've been alone. I mean, it's endless, Neil. The continent is endless. The roads disappear into infinity. And you think, I'm good. Oh, my Lord, I have to go. And then you get to that infinite point of infinity and it goes even further. It's not. It's then by rising above it and looking down, oh my God, it's minute. The earth is minute. And only then do you begin to get a sense of the relationship of this little rock to the vastness of space. You go, it's crazy.
We got to take our first break, but when we return, more of my conversation with the inimitable, or occasionally imitable, William Shatner. We're back with William Shatner. Are you ever thinking, while you're starship captain, that you'll ever actually be high up above Earth and see the blue planet?
That's fantasy. The whole thing was fantastic. Sometimes we'd laugh about how fantastical we were on stage 27 at Paramount Studios, pretending to be we're in space and we move the rocks around. Now we're on a planet and we shoot this gun, and later they put a little light thing in, and it's all fantasy. It's all beautiful fantasy about human beings somewhere in the future, but it's all, it's these crazy guys who are thinking futuristically. Never thought I'm going to go up there.
Well, just to be clear, Star Trek wasn't, at least for me, and I think for practically anyone who observed it, was not just space fantasy. There was space movies and space, there was Lost in Space was a TV show, but that didn't somehow get deep within our soul. Star Trek had messages within it.
Yes.
It had there were morality tales.
The surroundings were fanciful, but the meanings, the reason it's popular, I think, is just what you're saying, that it dealt with human beings. But I meant the surroundings were fanciful. If you're talking about racism and a guy is half black on the right and half white on the left, and he meets a guy who's half black on the left and half white on the right, he's like, who are you? And we were fighting, and because you're different from me. And so the stupidity, the nonsensical stupidity of racism is evident by these two guys who are fighting over the fact that one's different from the other slightly. It becomes.
But the value of telling a space tale is you get to present that to people without them being confronted in their own behavior. They have to sort of internalize it and then realize it for themselves rather than put a pie in their face.
Exactly. Think of how that would work. The guy's like, oh, geez, what's he complaining about? It's got the black hair and the white hair and the body. Some guy who may be prejudiced in any way is laughing at the stupidity of this guy.
Yes.
And he doesn't realize he's laughing at the stupidity of racism until later. If at some point in time, listen, black, white was it different? So that was the beauty of Star Trek.
Yeah, and it meant more than just a tale told in space. And right. and by the way, just if I can fanboy a little bit here, anytime I'm asked, okay, Kirk or Picard, this is like they quiz you that when you enter Comic-Con, right? Kirk or Picard. I'm Kirk all the time, and let me tell you why. Because
me too.
You too. No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because your character actually, not that I'm a very nonviolent person, so let me start with that, but let me just say, your character would fight the bad guys. If you see your captain actually getting into a fist fight, oh my gosh, they're invested in this. They care about what is true and righteous on a level where they're putting their own lives at risk. You fought the Gorn. You did, not some pawn that you sent out to do so. And so I thought that level of bravery for a captain I greatly valued. And my favorite line, and forgive me, the Star Trek fans, for not knowing the exact details. Your character is on the bridge. Your shields don't work anymore. The enemy vessel is out front, and you execute some command that's mysterious on a channel that's already been decoded. And Spock says, Captain, this is no time for a game of chess. And that command was a self-destruct command that would also destroy the enemy ship. Captain, there's no time for a game of chess. And you said, no, Spock, it's poker. And I said, yes, that's my captain. Oh my gosh.
I've totally forgotten that. That. And it's a great line. Can you imagine the wonderful writer who wrote that thing? He had
best line ever, especially because Spock, you say, Spock is right here. And then you say, no, you are more right because, you're bluffing. And they don't know it. Oh my gosh! So I'm on the team Captain Kirk the whole way. So now you get tapped by Jeff Bezos, and they must have known
about 2 years before that. it's about 3 years now. Jason Ehrlich, a friend of mine who was a producer on another series I did, said, you should go up in the middle. No, I'm not going to go up there. They don't want. Who cares? And I don't want to jeopardize. He says, but it'd be good. No, no, no. Anyway, the idea suggested they say, come up to Seattle. We fly up to Seattle. I meet Jeff. The whole lobby of Amazon is all Star Trek. We sit down at the table. Shatner up in space. That sounds good. We'll let you know, and we go back. Then COVID hits and nothing happens. Then we hear that Jeff Bezos is going to go up in space himself. So we think, well, maybe he'll choose Shatner. No, he chooses his brother and a lady with gray hair and a boy, and they go up. And I said, well, let's see that. Well, maybe they'd like you to go on a second, but no, I don't want to go up second, for God's sakes. That's the vice president. We want the president. So then they asked me to go up on the second one. No, I'm not going. So I turned it down. But then you might have an explanation for it. The wonderful moment between sleep and wake, when you're lying there thinking, and your brain is going and you've got all kinds of wonderful ideas, which you forget when you get up. I'm thinking, going up to space is an experience. I should try and experience that. As fearful as it sounds, so I agree to do it, thinking it's innocuous. I just go up, come down. Who cares? And I've had that experience. Who knew that they would be as newsworthy as it was? I didn't. I thought it would be unknown.
Well, let me just say that you can't just send up any famous actor and have the same reaction as sending you. There's no question about this. So in the Shatner in Space documentary, he's got all this footage in anticipation of you going into space, and some really fun encounter with you and your wife and daughters, where you announce to them that, and they say, "Dad, are you going to die? We don't want to lose a dad on this." And of course, if you died, you'd go out completely in flames, but in space. And,
what a glorious ending it would be, rather than lose your teeth slowly, one by one, you lose them. And you're going, I've played Captain Kirk,
Toothless Captain Kirk.
The toothless Captain Kirk.
So, and of course, there's no reason to have pre-footage of just any random famous person who's about to go suborbital. It's not interesting. We need someone with space legacy who sat at the fulcrum of people's hopes and dreams of space, and that was you. So I'm delighted that such a documentary could be made with that footage, and we see this side of you. I mean, I was delighted by that. I was worried because you guys had to walk up to the capsule, up all those damn steps.
Wait a minute.
They don't have a cherry picker or something to carry you up? I mean, dude, you're 90 years old. Dude.
I'm telling you, they asked me to come a day early. It's hysterical that you should come upon that point. So what do I'll go there, and then maybe Mr. Bezos will be there, and I'll have a chance to talk to him. And he wasn't, and so here's where this, and there's the gantry. Let's go to the gantry and see what the gantry. Okay, let's go and see what the gantry. Let's walk up the gantry. Okay. 11 flights at 4,000 altitude. And I'm going up, and I'm going, and look how pretty. I stop at some landing. Well, it's certainly pretty. And then another 3 flights. And I finally get to the top, but I made it. And I now, looking back, I got to assume somebody said, Jesus, do you think he'll make it up the gantry? He's 90 years old. Let's check him out. I now know it. That was a checkout. Imagine if I had failed. What would they do? Oh, sorry, Shatner. You've only made it.
Yeah. We lost Shatner on the fourth step.
Oh, Lord. I'm telling you, that was, when I look back on that, I have to laugh. What if I hadn't made it? And everybody was behind me. I was walking up, and there'd be like 7 people behind me, scampering up there, 20 years old. Hey, let's go. And I go, yeah, we'll go. I used to be able to scramble up, Neil. You may not believe it. I used to be able to run up 11 flights. Now I'm trying to walk up one.
So we have this footage of
Neil. How old are you?
But I am right now 63.
Do you feel any of your strength leaving you? Like, can you open a bottle top as easily as you did before?
No, but I take kindly the counsel of the years,
which is
gracefully surrendering the things of youth.
So do you hand
the line from
to your wife,
to my son?
Daughter, would you mind opening the bottle for me? I've got tools. Saying, would you mind getting the lease up, this bag up the upper when they're flying? I need some help. The upper, and the bag is heavy. No, I feel
no. I've got tools. I got tools now. So I'm good with that. But there's some shots of you inside the capsule before and during and after, and there's one of them when you're weightless. I don't mind. I'm going to tell you, you look like you were about to barf. Just your facial expression. So you don't have to divulge that here.
I was thinking about it. I wasn't crazy. I wonder if that vomit comet they fly.
Yeah.
The outside loop that they get ready to go.
Uh-huh.
I've heard
the airplane that
barf. So now,
and if you barf, there's nothing worse than 0G vomit. Okay, right, because it doesn't just fall.
Now all your attention is trying to avoid it. Here comes
oh, here comes one straight at you.
No, but be careful. And all your attention is dodging the barf.
So tell me, for me, whatever I would miss most, I think, if I never get to experience this, is the feeling of weightlessness. So can you describe that?
No, I can't because there aren't words in the English language. Weightlessness is a new thing. There aren't words to describe weightless. Oh, you're weightless and lift your arm. Well, you can't. You can't. The whole rehearsal part, the practice part, was getting in and out of that seat in weightlessness. But of course, you're not weightless, so you have no idea of how to get into that seat and tie yourself in, and because you're going to hit 7 Gs. So weightlessness, like suddenly I'm floating, but I don't want to float. I want to get to that window and see whatever it is I'm going to see. And there's footage of Jeff Bezos in the first flight. He's weightless and his ass is towards the camera. And this kid is throwing Skittles at his ass. That's the first moment of weightlessness. And I thought, I'm not going to spend weightlessness having Skittles thrown at me. I got to get to that window. So that's what
it just depends how big your ass is, right?
So it's indescribable. You're weightless, but it's not like being in water, which the astronauts practice. It's like nothing. It's indescribable. It's like floating. If you imagine yourself floating, but your body's not accustomed to not feeling gravity, so it's like what? And you're startled. You're like, what is the sensation? And everybody's had things planned, like we'll lift our hand up, and in the first flight they had "Hello, Mother" or something. I had nothing. I wanted to. Oh my Lord! And it was awkward, like you didn't know what to do. Now, if you spent time just in weightlessness, like they have that updraft of air.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the skydiving.
Right, exactly. So you can practice in a chamber. That's approaching it, I guess. But here, it's like being ill with an illness you don't know. I don't know whether it's feverish or something that what. How am I feeling? What am I? It's the complete unknown of weightlessness that occupies you to begin with. It's like startling, like, holy cats, what is that? combined with, in my case, I want to get to that window. I don't want to waste any time being weightless. I want to see the earth and the sky.
Or throwing Skittles. You're not going to throw
Right.
you're not going to burn weightless time throwing Skittles at anyone's
Exactly.
ass.
You have 2 minutes of weightlessness. 2 minutes in that orbit, in that momentum. I wanted to make use of it by looking, by absorbing, having a sensation, seeing something that very few people have seen.
We've got to take another break, the second of only 2 breaks in this conversation. When we return, more of my conversation with William Shatner. We're back with Star Talks conversation with William Shatner. Are you a different person for having done this?
Neil, I'm sure that when we talked last a few years ago, I must have expressed myself in terms of ecology, because I've been an amateur ecologist for the longest time. Rachel Carson wrote a book called The Silent Spring, and I read that 50 years ago, and I thought, my goodness, if that's what's going to be. And then I have a great friend, Michael Tobias. Do you know that name, the ecologist?
I do know the name. Yes, I do. I don't know that we met,
books
but
and
yes.
documentaries. Well, he's a dear friend of mine, and we did a series called Voice of the Planet many years ago. We went all over the place, even up into the Himalayas, looking at places that were being degraded as a result of, and this was years ago. This is more than 20 years ago. I saw for my own eyes what we're doing, including ocean stuff.
So you were early in this. You
Yes.
were early out of the box.
I was
thinking this way.
preaching this years and years to the scoffing of reporters. Oh, look at this actor thinking he's a scholar of, he knows something we don't know. There were early interviews. I thought, why would they scoff? Oh, he's an actor and he's talking about the world coming to an end. So I was tuned in a long time ago, but as it's become increasingly obvious, and now everybody knows, and now everybody should be panicked, like looking over their shoulder. When is this apocalypse going to hit? I'm a different person because what was theoretical, there are buildings, apartment buildings in Miami that but probably a lot of other places, where they paid millions and millions of dollars to have a view of the sea, right like on the sea, and their windows open up, and every morning they get up, they go, well, look at the sea. That's why they spent $20 million for their condo
Villa. Yeah.
And they're erecting 20-foot walls now for the anticipation of higher seas. There are cement walls going up, blocking their view. Now, how dramatic is that? Guy pays all this money for a view of the sea. What? Well, that's global warming, folks.
Yeah.
So that's happening now, and what I saw was the vulnerability of this little tiny speck, the stone, this little rock. Neil, I saw this, well, the curvature about like that. But that's finite, because you can continue the circumference and you come to an end. I've just described the circumference of the Earth. And you look out there, don't have to tell you, the whole galaxies can come through each other and not touch, billions of stars not hitting each other, because the space is so vast between them that what is it coming our way in 2 billion years? What's the name of the?
Yeah, you mean the Andromeda Galaxy?
Andromeda Galaxy
impending collision.
its way, and it's apparently possible for the whole Andromeda Galaxy to come through the Milky Way and not hit anything, because the space is so vast.
Correct.
That's how vast space is. And this mote of dust, I love the image of this speck of sand, this kernel of the grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. That's the volume of this Earth compared to space. And we are these little tiny. You can't describe us as ants because we're smaller than ants compared to the Earth.
Yes.
We're specks. We're tiny. We're freckles on Earth. You know, that's how innocuous.
Okay, Bill, I don't need you to blow a gasket thinking this.
Yeah, but the gasket is this. Where I retrieve it is this way. And I know you know this. The miracle is us being able to observe, to be a party to, an observer of this miracle of us being conscious enough to be conscious of our place in space. And that, to me, is what changed. I understood this theoretically, but I saw it. And I am filled with that thought that the miracle of human beings looking and saying, yes, this is a speck of dust. Yes, we are a speck of dust on a speck of dust, but we're observing it. We're a party to, an observer of the grandeur of it all, the miracle of it all. And the miracle is inside us. And what is that? I don't know what that is. I guess consciousness, we're still trying to figure it out. But that was what I saw.
Many a philosopher have waxed poetic on the fact that it's amazing that the universe is knowable at all.
You know this. Oh, moa moa. Oh, moa 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 moa.
Oh, Oumuamua.
Oumuamua. And Avi, I've forgotten his last name. The wonderful
Avi Loeb.
Avi Loeb.
He's a colleague of mine up at Harvard. Uh-huh.
Avi Loeb has written this book on using Oumuamua as the chrysalis for the thoughts of other civilizations existing, whether Oumuamua is a relic of some civilization, or I mean, there's a great deal of argument about it, but he uses it and describes scientific reason to think that it was from another civilization somewhere.
And just to catch everybody up, Oumuamua is an asteroid-like object, interloper between the stars that happened to pass through the solar system in recent years,
and went around the moon and made alleles in terms of its trajectory. It changed.
Yeah, its trajectory was not entirely Newtonian, as we say. Right. And so the hunt was to find out why, and Avi Loeb was more embracing of the possibility that it could have been an alien craft sent under its own power.
Well, not a craft,
therefore it would
not
move.
He became to the conclusion it must have been like a sail, like a solar sail. So we saw this part of it and thought it was like a log, whereas in fact it was a dish. That's his theory.
But you make the good point that if we use that as a launch point to even have that conversation,
exactly,
that surely
that's what he does
value.
in his book. Mm-hmm. He uses it as a launching point to have the discussion about how dare we think, because life is so imperative. When you think that slime seeks the sunlight and mindless, what we think of as mindless things, trying to live the imperative of life. I talked to Bob Ballard, who talked about seeing those chimneys, the calcified chimneys on 600 degrees Fahrenheit boiling water in 30,000 feet depth, and worms living and clams living. Life can exist in the extremophiles, and so there's life in other places as we surmise, and the whole magic of it came alive for me in that trip.
In that moment, wow. Well, so what do you want the future to hold? I can tell you this: we surely agree that Star Trek, I think, planted some seeds of what we want the future to be, and some tap roots have already taken hold. But if we go 10 years, 20 years, should we send every politician? Forget the actors. Let's send the politicians into space and then
No, you don't
lock them
even
in a
have to
room in
do
the
that.
UN afterwards.
Is it fungi or fungi? If you just
Fungi is a West Indian dish made of cornmeal. Fungi.
so
But
fungi,
for fungi, fungus and fungi, you mean
right?
mushrooms in general.
Whatever the because I've heard it both ways, and I'm
Hmm.
a little embarrassed to not know what the correct pronunciation is. But there is a whole there is the animal, the insect, and the fungus lying beneath. We're just discovering this whole other world of fungus
Yes.
and
It's an entire branch.
of
It's an
life.
entire sector of the tree of life, correct.
Exactly.
And
And
you and I are old enough for it to have not been there when we first learned of the tree of life.
we people
It
don't
has
know this.
risen up.
People
Yes.
don't know this. I love mushrooms, and mushrooms are the fruit thereof. And but people don't know that there's so much going on Earth, and it's going to end unless we do something now about it. Not tomorrow. Not wait for funds 10 years from now. We're on the cusp of apocalypse. You know that, right? You agree
Yes.
with that?
Yes. Not the apocalypse of our extinction, because I think we will survive. Some humans will survive no matter what. We're on the brink of the loss of civilization because all the greatest cities in the world are on the water's edge. And how high can you build that 20-foot wall, right? Before the ocean is just completely overrun most of what we've taken 10,000 years to build,
Exactly.
right back when your first horses
But
showed up.
further, but then you go inland and you have the extreme weather and you have the fires and you have, I mean, the world as you and I know it, our children, but especially our children's children, are not going to know what we know. And looking in your eyes right now and seeing the pain, like I don't want to discuss this. You're saying this is not what I intended with Shatner. It is a truth that we have to impress upon the person you meet on the street.
Bill, give me a sense of hope. You spent 3 years on a TV show where every single show had glimmers of hope
So
deeply embedded within it.
I interviewed Jeff Bezos. Okay, I don't know how much they showed on this documentary, but I had intense conversations with Mr. Bezos, whose view is this: let's get the polluting industries up into the air in orbit, pollute up there because it'll dissipate, and get rid of the pollution here as quickly as possible. That's his drive. I said to him, but Jeff, that'll take 100 years. We don't have 100 years. And he said, apropos of what you just said, we have to have hope. If without hope, what else is there? So the hope is that all these warring politicians, both in our country, and I'm Canadian, and in the world, realize what you and I are talking about, the imperative what you and I are talking about, and the necessity of immediate action.
Do we do that by sending them all into space?
Well, in 100 years, if we're still here and moving along, there will be a number of industries, people living in space, coming down to park-like Earth for restoration. Why do you smile?
So
Why do you smile? You're one of the wisest and most communicable of the astral people. Why do you smile?
astral.
Well,
Uh,
give me another word.
okay. So, by the way, I think 100 years is a very long time in the future when you consider 100 years ago, we were only just swapping out cars with horses in the cities. So a lot can happen in 100 years. So let's hope it happens sooner than that. But you're suggesting or implying that access to space will become so prevalent that we can just send politicians there
Workers,
before they
people to
come
make a
down and make
living,
decisions.
make a living up there, and come down here and find the Earth with its natural beauty. Yes, that's the dream.
So, because if we get a dream from anyone, it's got, it's got to have Star Trek DNA in it, because those are the only ones that
Well, look at the space the space vehicle. People have been living there for years now, coming out every 6 months, coming back down, and
you're talking about the International Space Station. Mm-hmm.
yes, so that's been there for many years. Now amplify that so that there's industry going on. They're burning coal or oil if they have to, making electricity, wiring it down here, and because I don't want to use the word beaming it down here, and
you'd be totally forgiven for using the word beaming. Okay,
we've eliminated a large source of pollution.
Yes. Unless everyone recycles everything, then there is no more pollution. Is a what? Grandma used to have, what's that word? Pollution?
Yes. There were vast areas of the ocean with plastic in it. What, Grandma?
So, Bill, we got to land this plane. Let me just remind people that it was the New Shepard that was the capsule you went up with, launched by Blue Horizons, a company owned by Jeff Bezos. And in the interest of disclosure, Jeff Bezos owns Amazon and owns Prime, where your documentary is being shown.
Right.
So
he's a remarkable man. He's a remarkable man, remarkable with a dream, and you want to use his fortune. I learned to really care about him.
What I learned from the documentary, because we learned a little bit about Jeff Bezos as well, is that he has very long history dreaming about going into space. So this is not just some latter day thought when you have some cash falling out of your
driving force. Also wanted to mention that I do a talk show called I Don't Understand.
I was a guest on your talk show. Thank you for
and you were a wonderful guest, and it's all about things I don't understand, which is everything. I hate to admit it, I don't understand anything.
It's a brilliant title. I enjoyed my time there. Yes,
it was wonderful. And then there's this wonderful show called The Unexplained on the History Channel, which is really great fun. It's very popular.
Well, people love stuff that's not explained. What happens is sometimes they jump too quickly to conclusions. I can't explain that. It must have been aliens who built it, So I'm not that quick to. I love the mystery, but I'm not so quick to sort of invoke an explanation. William Shatner, thank you for lending us your time on Star Talk. And let's, when you're 100, we'll bring you back and we'll get your 100-year perspective on this world. Because you don't look like you're going out anytime soon.
No, I hope not. But I also want to say how much I admire you, and not only your intelligence, but your ability to communicate. It's very important. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill, that's all the time we have. Got to land this plane, land this starship. Thank you once again for being a guest on Star Talk. This not your first rodeo with us. Live long and prosper, or rather, live longer and be even more prosperous. How's that? You already satisfied the first two conditions. So we're out of here. Neil deGrasse Tyson for Star Talk. As always, keep looking up. And Bill, one last thing. Can I get you to just ask me a question? Because we have this series called Celebrities Ask Neil, and then I answer that online, and then I don't have to answer it now, but we'll have it. You say, Neil, this has always been bugging me.
Neil, why haven't all those vehicles on Mars discovered bacterial life?
That's good. Do you have any others? We'll use that, definitely.
What is going on in the interior of the moon? Somehow, when they leave, everything shakes.
Okay. Good. You read too much. You.
I'm filling up the ash can.